Hi, this is Zachary Peach, HERS Rater with Archon Energy Solutions, just coming at you with another training video. This time showing you how to create a house layout using this nifty app called Total. Now, as you can see, I've created quite a few layouts using this app. It would probably take me all night to scroll through all those. At the top there, I think that's Jennifer Aniston's house, got Satan's house in there, and then just a bunch of other random ones. But yeah, again, this guide will help you create a diagram, layout, or measurement of footprint of a residence. So those are just a few different ways of saying the same thing. People will call it footprint or layout. I usually call it a layout, sometimes a drawing. Anyway. So we're using this app. It's called Total. Technically, its full name is Total for Mobile, but I'm actually showing it to you on the iPad here. I guess an iPad is mobile though. So this won't go into all the many functions this app has. We'll just be focused on creating a footprint or layout for the residents here, because really what we use this for is for home scores right now, and all they need is that layout. This app can also do a bunch of stuff with like appraising homes, but we're not going to get into that. So if you're a HERS rater or somebody else interested in creating just a simple layout, a diagram, drawing, footprint, whatever, of a residence, some kind of house or place, then this is great for that. So I think this app is really good for doing that. It really has a lot of functionality and it's pretty simple to use. So there's a lot of things though that, I actually didn't even know that I wish I had known until I started working on creating this instructional video for you all. So even if you've been using this app for a while, I think it would be helpful for you to watch this, because I think you will learn a couple things, just like I did, even though I created all of these different diagrams over the past couple of years. So one thing I will say is if there's something you're not sure how to do that's specific to your device, like taking a screenshot, I'm not going to go into those small details like just Google stuff like that. If you work for Archon, you can always give me or Zach a call if you're or email or whatever if you're having trouble with something. So just some tools you're going to need for doing this is a laser measurement tool for actually being out in the field, taking these measurements to put in this Total app, or a measuring wheel. You may need an angle finder, which allows you to know the angles of walls so you can figure out what angle things are. I will say that that's something I think we need as a company, but anyway, we can focus more on that in the future. You'll need an iPad, tablet, iPhone, smartphone, something that can have the Total for Mobile app, of course. And always, as always, at least a semi-functioning brain. This really isn't the most difficult app in the world, but like I said, sometimes there's certain things that you don't really learn about until you watch a video like this or try to create one. So just another quick note, like with this is really specific to the home score people, for Archon, and if officially the home score program says that your measurements for the house should be within 1/10 of an inch, so like 10.1, 10.2 feet. I've never seen them enforce this level of accuracy. Really, the only time I've gotten called out on my measurements is if I'm several feet off, like really obviously off. Like you look at the photo of the house and it's like it's obvious that the first floor is like 30 feet long, not 20 feet long or something like that. So, you know, you want to be as accurate as you can, but with what we're doing, we have to be efficient with our time. So trying to make it accurate within 1/10 of an inch when it doesn't need to be that accurate is just being overly perfectionist, unless you actually do have a lot of time. But still, even then, it's really just not necessary. So, you know, be as accurate as you can, but you don't need to be that accurate. So you can also use a phone. Obviously, like I said, whatever it can use this app, but I prefer to use an iPad because what we're doing is like small numbers and lines and things. So sometimes you can make a mistake if you're using a small screen. So I prefer to use the iPad. And I'll try to keep this guide up to date with the newest versions. But, you know, I might not, you know, certain things might not be exactly the same as whatever app version you have, because mine might be out of date on this. I should mention also, I do have a text version of this guide if you don't want to watch this video, or if you would like to read along with this video. I'll include a link to that in the description. I'll see, actually. It might just be in the folder along with the other training material, because I don't want other people who aren't Archon employees accessing that. So it may be in the description of this. Otherwise, I'll give you access to the Google Docs folder. So, all right. Before we go into actually drawing a house, we should talk a little bit about just the basic functionalities and just the basic way to use this app. So we'll just start by going into it and trying to do some stuff. So this is the first page we're on right now that the app brings you to. So like if I'm on my main home screen and I click on the house for Total app, which is at the bottom here, it'll bring us up to this page. And then if you want to create a new drawing, a new layout, you press the plus sign on the top right. Now you enter a street name, which is usually the number like 123 Johnson Street. It's my favorite street. Say create on the top right, it'll create it. That's really all you need to put in, is just the street name for our purposes. Then you know, you can go in here and edit the address if you need to at some point. So on the top left here, there's a bunch of, or on the left bar, there's a bunch of options, so you can click on the different options here. But if you go to this top left one, then you can edit the street if you want to edit it. And to draw, you go to the icon on the left bar that looks like a bunch of lines and dots connected to each other, which is that one. And this brings us to the page where we can actually draw stuff. So one thing to keep in mind, the top left, you have 4 icons, which are 4 different cursors. So if I select this one, if you can see on the top left there, it changes my cursors actually. So if I use this one, then I can move my cursor around on the screen. If I choose this one, I can't do that. So this first one is used to draw lines. So with this one, I can draw lines. With the rightmost one, I can move my cursor around. And with the pointer hand, I can select lines. So if I draw a line and I use the pointer finger, then I can select this line and delete it, or do different things to it. So good to know those different cursors. I'm not going to focus on the second option. The second option, we never use it, so I'm just not going to focus on it. So just focus on these three options that just discussed. So another thing is if you press enter without drawing anything or doing anything, I'm just pressing enter right now, you can see it cycles between the two different cursor options, which is useful if you don't want to actually go up there and press that. You can just press the enter button here. It can make it a little bit quicker for you. So that's a little nifty shortcut, but we're going to go ahead and start by drawing a line. So to draw a line, you make sure that your cursor is on that top left square icon. Then put a number in this thing that looks like a calculator on the bottom left. So we'll just put 10 in there. Then now that we have a number in there, we'll use the arrows to draw the line in the direction that we want the line. So if we want the line to go up, press the up arrow, it goes up, and it draws it at the length that you entered into the buttons down there. So we put in 10, it put in a 10-foot line. So we drew the line, but we have to save it. To press, so press enter at the bottom there to save it. Now we have the line there. And after this, let's see. So another thing is you can make this line a different angle. So let's say you want to draw a line at a specific angle. Let's say we do like 10 and we do the line up, or sorry, if you do like 10 and you do angle instead of the arrow, so you can see there's an enter and an angle button. So if I press angle, it's going to bring up this screen, and you see there's like this instruction here that says enter angle, then touch line direction. So let's say we want a 45-degree angle. It'll also show us what that 45 looks like. Do not 90, you know. So you know what it's going to look like. So let's say we do a 45-degree angle, and then we touch the line direction. So if I touch the one on the left, it's going to draw it to the left. It's going to draw it 10 feet because I put in 10 before. So I'll just show that one more time. So 10, angle, and then you can see that it does the line in reference to the previous line it's attached to. So this is angled differently than it was before because we angled that previous line. So I'll just go ahead and make it straight again. So 45, and now I'll press the line up, and it 45'd it in that direction. So yeah, if you need to make an angle, you can do that. And remember to measure an angle of a house. You can try to guess, if it seems obvious what the angle of the house is, but of course it's always better to measure using like a protractor or an angle finder. Really, they call them an angle finder, at least in our discipline. So, all right, what is the next thing? So you can also curve a line. So if you want to curve a line, then you have to use the pointer finger on the top. Remember the cursors on the top left. So I'm using the pointer finger. And then at the middle of these lines, there's a blue dot in the middle of all these lines. So if you select one of the blue dots, it allows you to do certain things to the line. So you see, now that we did that, we selected that one, there's a ruler that comes up at the top, and there's some arrows on the right. So if I start adjusting these arrows, see 0.5, 0.6, 1 inch. So it just curved my line 1 inch. I'm just going to click away. It's going to save it. And so you can curve it by using the pointer finger, selecting the blue dot, and using the arrows, or you can actually press on the ruler with your finger and drag it. So yeah, look, we got another Jennifer Aniston house. So yeah, if you need to curve a line, that's not super common, but I have run into houses that it makes sense to do this. They have like curved glass walls and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's the way you do the curved lines. Now, another thing to keep in mind is you can see these red dots. So let's go ahead and use our circle cursor, move our cursor over here. And then if you want to draw the line, the shortcut is enter. Remember how we can toggle between those instead of having to actually press it. Now, total gives us a way to auto-complete certain lines. So you can see we've drawn several lines now, and we have all these red dots. So these red dots, you can see they're lined up with the other red dots. So once you draw 2 lines, you'll have a bunch of red dots, or a couple red dots that Total App gives you. And what these do is enable you to draw lines quicker. It's just another shortcut. So instead of having to manually input the distance and press enter and say the direction, all you do is you press on the red dot and it'll draw the line for you. Or I can do undo and go down there. And I've been using this undo function on the bottom right. So it's like redo and undo and stuff. Fit is, I should mention this, fit is just a way to make it easy to go back to looking at your entire drawing. But yeah, I forgot to mention that. I should have mentioned that earlier. But yeah, so you can use these red dots to just automatically draw a line. And it's useful too because, like, for instance, if I'm drawing it to here, I don't really know how far. I didn't know that was 17.1, right? To where it lines up with that other part of the house. So it's useful that I can draw a line that lines up with that other red dot over there. In certain situations, you'll find that useful. But also, it's like a lot of times houses, they'll have one side of the house that's just completely straight, and so you can just do that and draw the entire side of the house without having to measure it or manually input it or anything. So yeah, it's a very useful function. Now, excuse me, it's kind of late here, but I wanted to do this video. So once you connect all of the lines and dots together, so I'm just going to connect this last one, it does this. So you get a bunch of options for area type, which is just labeling your footprint or drawing. So it's, you can say, is it the first floor, is it the attic, is it, carport, is it a garage, or a carport, a bunch of different options. And you can go into the top left and say edit and get rid of stuff. You can add stuff, say the name of it, so cat litter area or whatever. I don't know, I'm just making up something. So yeah, there's different labeling stuff, which is useful. I would recommend labeling it accurately if you can. And I've found it useful to add your own stuff. Like sometimes I don't really want to say if it's like a 2-car garage or attached or whatever. I just want to say it's a garage, so I'll go in here and say edit, and I'll add one that just says garage, and just to make it easier. Sometimes I don't need to specify if it's a 2-car garage or whatever. So whatever makes it easier and it doesn't cause any trouble for you, I'm always a fan for that. So we'll label that by pressing OK on the top right. Oh, well, that's weird. It said undefined area. I've never had that happen before. Let's go ahead and go back into define. So yeah, if you ever want to rename it, you can just use your pointer finger on the top left. Just like how you select the lines, you're going to select the middle of your layout, and it'll make it yellow. And on the top left, you can copy it and paste it if you want 2 of them. You can say if you want the lines on or off and stuff, as far as like the measurements, the area, and you can define it as whatever you want. Also, you can move it around, which is useful. Sometimes you want to move it somewhere so it fits better. Okay, so let's see if there's anything else. And yeah, you can, obviously you can use your fingers to pinch it to zoom in or out, or you can use this fit button like I said before. Alright, so one other thing, so just before we get into actually creating a layout for a house, we have a lot of preliminary stuff here, but once we get to actually doing the layout for a house, it'll make it just a lot simpler to explain everything then. So let's just go ahead and delete this, and I just have a couple things to go over with you. So as far as actually measuring in the field, there's several things you want to know. There's obviously a lot of different methods people can use for this, but I'll just share what I did. And I've done hundreds of these, so it worked for me really well, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. So yeah, as far as like how I always start with measuring the garage, just because it's an easy and quick starting point. It can become confusing too if you try to save it for last and incorporate the garage in after you've done the rest of the house. And once you've done this layout process enough, you'll be able to put the garage measurement in by eyeballing it, and you won't even have to take any measurements using your tools. For instance, a standard 2-car garage is 20 by 20 feet. So you'll just walk up to a house, you'll look at it, and you'll say, oh, that's 20 by 20, and do this 20 by 20, and then whoops, not that, and do that. And you'll want to label it garage, not first floor. So yeah, I always start with the garage. Just very simple. They don't really make those complicated usually. It's a good starting point. So after you got the garage in there, whoops, sorry. I actually do want that garage in there. So once you have the garage, then you'll want to start measuring the rest of the house. So something pretty common is you'll have a line coming off of the garage, because the garage is usually like an attached, or it could even be a detached garage, but it'll be connected to the conditioned house's wall. So you'll have like a garage, and then you'll walk past the garage to the front door, and those walls will be connected. So what I'll usually do is I'll have my laser measurement tool. I'll start from the front of the garage, which is like over here, you know, like right there. And then I'll use my laser measurement tool here. I'll point it at the wall, which is like where the front door is over here. And then, you know, I'll get some measurement. And so, you know, it's probably like 16 feet here. So then I know where to start, you know, from on this part right here. I know this is my starting point, 16 feet from, you know, the front of the garage. And then I go, you know, way over this side of the house where the wall ends, point my tool back towards the garage, hit the garage with my laser measurement tool, and now I know that the distance here, so let's just say it's 30 feet. And again, maybe it's 30 feet, 0.1 or something. You can put that in there if you want, but most likely, you know, your angle's not going to be exactly perfect on your device. So, you know, if you're within a couple feet, you're fine for our purposes. If you're trying to be really accurate, then do that. Maybe you're somebody who's got a lot of time or needs to be accurate. So then you do the rest of the house, let's say kind of the same way, using your measurement tool or using your wheel. A lot of times there'll be like a fence on this side of the house. I use you know, I use my laser tool to where I get to the fence, which might be like a few feet, and then and I'm sorry about like all these random things. I just accidentally do that, and then I have to say undo. But yeah, I'll get to the fence, and then I'll go to the, you know, backyard over here somewhere, and I'll get to the very back of the house, and then I'll use my laser tool up to the fence, and then I know, you know, that side. You can use your wheel, but sometimes you're on a slope. If you're on a slope, that's not going to give you an accurate measurement with your wheel. I mean, it'll get you close sometimes, but, and then also it can take more time. You might be in gravel, whatever. I like to use a laser tool if I can. It's usually a lot quicker. So, but if you have something like this, you know, then up here, this 15, it's not going to be easy sometimes to use a laser measurement tool. A lot of times you're going to have to use a wheel for that because there's not really any backstop for your laser tool. Although if you do have like a fence somewhere over here, then you could, you know, start from over here, use your laser tool over to the fence, and you know, maybe that's like 20 feet from here to there, and then you can go up to the end of the wall here and use your laser tool to the fence, and maybe that's 5 feet, or it looks more like 7 feet. Then you can subtract those two, like the 20 from the 7, and, you know, or whatever, 20 from the 5, it gives you 15. So you can do a little math, really simple math, and still use a laser measurement tool. Yeah, I just like to use it as often as I can. So something like this is a pretty typical house you'd run into. Yeah, I guess I said that I wasn't going to try to do the drawing yet, but really I was just trying to talk you through some methods that I use as far as like when I'm in the field, how I make those measurements. So hopefully that was helpful. Since we're here, there's one more thing I want to talk about. So a lot of times you'll have a second floor. A lot of times that second floor is more or less you know, similar dimensions. Let's actually go ahead and say it's like going over the garage, and then something like this. See, so the app will automatically say second floor since it knows you already did the first floor. So yeah, I have these two drawings, and this would be fine. I can press my fit button and everything is kind of nice and tidy. But sometimes, what some people do is this is what I did when I first started. I I didn't know how to move stuff around, so I just attached everything together like this. So like second floor is attached to the garage wall on the drawing, and now look, I'm moving like everything around at the same time. Thankfully I'm able to separate it here, but sometimes it bugs out and doesn't let me. So anyway, yeah, so you want it separated like this is the point, because otherwise it's confusing. It's like, oh, where does one line end and another start, So this way, everything, you want the first floor connected to the garage if that's how the house actually looks. But yeah, so keep everything separated, except for the floor that is attached to the garage. Okay, so this is what I was wanting to show you. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but I think it's called a cantilever. Cantilever. More like I can't pronounce this word, but anyway, it's where the second floor or third floor or whatever is jutting out from the first floor. So it's also highly inefficient, by the way. Usually they don't insulate those properly under there, and it has all sorts of air leakage. But yeah, it's neither here nor there. So anyway, the bottom line is, when you're creating a layout for houses with a cantilever, when it's this small, at least for our purposes here at Archon with doing home scores, don't put that in the layout. Just make the first floor, whatever the first floor is, just make that the same as the second floor in this situation, because otherwise you're going to have to add a new foundation with your home score paperwork, and it's just going to make everything complicated, and most likely you're going to get your home score rejected and have to redo it, which means, it's not good. So yeah, just make them the same. That's what I always did. I never had any problems. So just act like the second floor in a situation like this is the same as the first floor. If it was like some huge jutting out, that might be different, but I've actually never really ran into that. I've seen photos like that, but they're usually like crazy expensive homes, and something I haven't dealt with yet. So anyway, besides that, I wanted to talk about this fancy house. So mainly because, you can see how it's on a downward slope. So this is a situation you're going to have sometimes, especially out in like Berkeley and Oakland area, up in the hills there. You have a lot of homes that are built on a downward slope, and we do a lot of home scores out there. So the question is, back here with our layout, you could see how the garage is attached to the first floor in the layout. Here, I don't even know if there is a garage. Looks like maybe there is one over there. But anyway, it looks like it's a detached garage anyway. But let's assume there's an attached garage to this photo somewhere over here. What is the first floor here? So is the first floor down here? Is it, way... Sorry, I don't know what just happened. Oh, just got rid of my image. Anyway, I think you remember what the image looked like. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, which one would it be the first floor in that image? Would it be the bottommost floor or the topmost floor? Obviously not the topmost floor, right? So in that case, the first floor would actually be the very bottom floor. It's not a basement. a basement is underground. So the first floor is that very bottom floor down underneath the level of the garage, because it's still at ground level, right? The ground is just sloped. So you start at the very bottom, that's the first floor, and the second floor, and the third floor was actually the one that was level with the garage. And then it had a fourth floor too. But so in this, in that image, you would have, this would actually be like the third floor, is what you would, have the definition here as, and it would be attached to the garage, and then you would have your drawings of the rest of the floors. But my point is just that the garage is not always attached to the first floor. You're attaching the garage to whatever floor it's level with, right? Sometimes you'll have situations where it's not clear if the garage is level with the first floor or the second floor. Maybe the garage is like on a little hill, so it's kind of in between. Just use your best guess. It's usually best to say it's with the first floor if it's like halfway in between, but yeah, it could be with the second floor. So it just depends on which one is closer to. But I lean towards attaching it to the first floor. If it's a choice between the second and first floor, I will decide to attach it on the layout to the first floor. Okay, so I think that's about it. I'm just going to double check my notes here and make sure there's nothing I missed. So the only other couple things I'm going to mention for the home score guys is, once you have your layout done, you can zoom in or out with a pinching or press the fit button, and then you're going to take a screenshot, which is power button, center button, same time, and then the image on the bottom left, you press on that so you can crop your image. You don't want to include everything in there, just crop it. Takes a couple seconds, looks nicer. Press down on the top left, save it to your photos, and now you can upload it to your project on Compass for your paperwork. And then when you're exiting out of this screen, you'll press the 3 lines on the top left, say save and close on the bottom left, and it'll save your report. And now we have good old Johnson Street saved there for easy reference. And that's it. I hope this was helpful, and yeah, leave a comment or what have you. I know I'm not exactly professional at these sort of things, but I do hope this was helpful for you, and please leave any feedback. Thank you.